The woman gestured for Sarah to take a seat and introduced herself. "Marion Walk," she said with a smile that was anything but genuine. The lack of lines accompanying the curvature of her lips made it seem like a rare experience for her face. "Nice to meet you," said Sarah, attempting to be genial, and mask finding the woman and her choice of aesthetics off-putting. "Could you tell me a little about yourself?" asked Walk, as she leafed through Sarah's file. "Well, I'm 27, said Sarah. "I work as a volunteer for a homeless shelter and asylum seeker support." "More specifically about your drug use," said Walk, not even attempting to hide a disinterest in Sarah's occupation. "Well, I mostly use psychedelics, or psychoactives, whatever you want to call them. LSD, mushrooms, mescaline, peyote, DMT, 2CB. She struggled to recall others. "You can stop there, that's a fabulous selection," said Walk, almost sounding impressed. "I wouldn't call it fabulous," said Sarah. "Oh, but it is for our requirements in this study. You're exactly the type of candidate we're after. Have you taken part in a clinical trial before? What makes me a great subject? For this particular testing regime, we're after subjects that have had experience with psychoactive substances, those whose neural pathways have been altered. You know how LSD was used medically for a time to help patients with schizophrenia? We're trying something along those lines, albeit with normal patients in this round, rather than locking up a group of crazies together." She appeared to think she was making a joke. Sarah smiled politely. "We have a new 3-month study starting in just 2 weeks. Is that enough time to put your affairs in order?" Walk made her sign a consent form and an initial non-disclosure agreement before giving her more information about the study. She was to be reimbursed with £12,000 for her time, which would be deposited on the final day of the trial. Sarah feigned interest in the information that was being imparted, caring less for the cash lump sum, and more focused on imagining the final day of her emergence from the depths of the Apex machine. 17 weeks and 1 day earlier, Sarah didn't know or care much about Apex, other than it being the company her parents had worked for before their deaths. She had been gallivanting around their old house in a mushroom daze, and other than having relocated their books, it was pretty much exactly as they had left it. She had recently taken to tripping there amongst her parents' belongings. It was giving her a feeling of closeness to them that she hadn't had for a long time. Whilst going through her father's desk, she came across a USB pen which she plugged into a laptop, hoping it wasn't a secret stash of porn. As she started going through the thousands of documents on the drive, the visuals of her trip dissipated, the high diminished, and for the first time in 10 years, she felt something close to sober. She signed up to NA later that day to keep that feeling, keep her focus on the task ahead. What she had found blew her mind, and made her question whether her parents' death was an accident as she had been led to believe. There were confessions from her mother and father, and files upon files to back up their claims. They were going to whistleblow on their employers, take the stash of documents stolen from the company and hand them over to WikiLeaks. There was proof of hidden accounts, illegal experiments, arm deals, black budgets, and more. She had thought about just sending the data off and wrapping up their mission, but it was all at least a decade old and would likely be shrugged off by the multinational demon, blamed on former executives and disgraced employees. This trial, however, might make that data worth something. She'd be in the belly of the beast. A testing facility probably had records of patients' pasts, and if the current experiment wasn't above board, it might implicate the company with recent proof that would only emphasize the content in the archive her parents had amassed. She wished she had been more industrious 10 years ago. That would have been the perfect time to strike. But now she had the chance to finish what her parents started. Sarah thought again of Walk's question about putting her affairs in order, and recalled an experiment in which the paperwork declared all the subjects were deemed unsuitable for return to society. The account of the trial continued to talk about the results of the experiment itself, with no explanation of what happened to the subjects, and they weren't spoken of in any of the other documentation. She tried to put it out of her mind, concentrating on the task ahead and the day, 3 months and 2 weeks away, when she would emerge from the testing facility with a smoking gun, completing the mission her parents didn't have a chance to see through before their unceremonious departure from the company. Sarah tried to shrug off the fact that she didn't have a plan beyond sending the documents to WikiLeaks. She knew her quest for vengeance was a tall order, and possibly out of a sense of psychedelically enhanced Batman-style justice, but she literally had nothing else to dedicate her life to, so why not this?